Despite the advances made in the field of democracy and good governance, it is essential for ordinary citizens to get involved, and Somali Americans are no exception. Our numbers are estimated to have exceeded 500,000, of whom majority live in the state of Minnesota. With all the misconceptions surrounding this new minority community's loyalty to the United States, it is imperative for members of this community to be engaged and voice their concerns through votes. As usual, during election years, both parties and every candidate is striving to have your attention and then, of course, your votes. In return, the politicians promise that they'll represent our issues and us in a respective manner. However, the question worth asking is, do you have pressing concerns that you want to address? Although how you vote depends partly on how you answer this question, the outcome of the election will be determined by many factors, such as the state of the economy, healthcare, deficit, and foreign policy, to mention a few. Here to reach out to you all and to discuss what this election is about is a representative from the Obama campaign team. Mr. Rotolu Adebiyi is the operations vote director for the Obama campaign team here in Minnesota. Please feel free to join our discussion by reaching us at 612-341-0980. Again, 612-341-0980. Please keep in mind that you can submit your questions or comments on our Facebook page, Somali Public Radio, or on our website at www.spr.fm. Mr. Adebiyi, let me welcome you to our program, Somali Public Radio, through KFAI.
Thanks a lot. It's really, really great to be here, so I appreciate you having me on the show.
Let's start off. Can you give us a general overview of what this campaign is really about and what your team is focused on, what you guys were able to accomplish since the campaign efforts began here in Minnesota?
Right. Well, I would say this campaign is actually still focused on exactly what we were focused on in 2007, 2008. And that's not just winning the election, but that's on inclusion and letting everyone know that they are important, and that just a vote isn't necessarily what's all important. It's important that people get involved in the campaign. People ask questions. People really make an educated vote and really take the time to get to know what's going on, because typically and traditionally campaigns seem to just want to come in and grab your vote, but here on the Obama campaign, that's actually not what we're about. We're obviously, ultimately, do we want you to vote for President Obama? Yes. Do we feel that he's the right choice? 100%. But more importantly, we want people to really believe in their vote and to know that they're getting something out of their vote.
Given that an overwhelming number of Somali Americans consistently support President Obama, some have openly wondered if the Obama campaign team here in Minnesota are taking their votes for granted. What strategies is your team using to reach out to the Somali community and to ensure, and how can you ensure to those with this kind of sentiment that their votes are important?
Right. And people with that sentiment, what I would say is this campaign definitely does not take anybody's vote for granted. No single vote, whether it's white, black, Hmong, Somali, Liberian, Nigerian, like no vote is taken for granted. I personally am, I'm from the continent. I'm Nigerian, moved to the States when I was 1, understand the importance and the issues that kind of affect our immigrant communities. And I would say that this campaign is, like I said before, all about inclusion. No vote is taken for granted. We want everybody to have an active role in this campaign, to help and to work within their communities, to really organize within their communities, and to really get something out of this election process, because we feel that that's possible.
I know that you guys held several events here in Minnesota. What was it like?
It was actually it's been a great experience. I'm not from Minnesota. I moved here for the election. I'm a Midwest guy, and I realized that there's a lot of love here in the Midwest. There's a lot of support, and we have Midwestern values. And all those values have really come to play here as we've held events in the Somali community. People are really energetic. People are intelligent. People are really involved in the process. The Somali people have discussions, whether it's at Ibrahim restaurant or Cedar Riverside. Wherever you are, people are really having these really engaged discussions. And for me personally, that's been exciting and that's been really refreshing. Because there's nothing more passion, nothing better than just seeing that passion. Seeing people take part of the process and people care. Because most importantly, that care is what really holds the campaign together.
Somali Americans display conservative tendencies on a range of socio-economic issues. To highlight commonality with Somali Americans requires a level of expertise in terms of culture. Were you guys able to reach out to the elders, religious leaders who are often seen as the custodians of Somali values and culture.
Yeah. With the religious leaders, the imams and just leaders in the community, one thing that they share in common with us as well is just care for their community. They understand that they understand the people they represent. They understand the people they lead, and they understand the issues, whether it's job training, access to a proper and a real equal education for their children and for their youngsters, college tuition, affordability, access to Pell Grants. Like, these are things that are universal and that really are important here in the Somali community, and they're things that the president has shown are really important to him. He's demonstrated the intent and demonstrated in his works as well that what he cares about is our community, and that's all communities. He cares about the American people, building the middle class, giving people a chance to better themselves and to better their families, and that's something that the imams understand that their people want as they lead prayer and as they talk with people in the community. Like, those things are very important, and they're important to us here on the campaign. So we easily found common ground with the Somali leaders, because the things that matter to the Somali leaders are the same things that matter to the president.
Let's talk about poverty, welfare, government programs. It's very clear where President Obama stands on these issues. Can you, for our audience's sake, explain to our audience what they risk losing if Obama doesn't win this in November?
So, like I said, it's someone who's come from Nigeria and whose entire family is overseas and who's from the continent. I understand the importance of not just having a government that understands, but having a government that actually works for you, which is the whole purpose of government. And as a people, it's about what we can do for our country, not just what our country can do for us, but ultimately that all comes back to the circle of teamwork. What we risk losing, in regards to welfare, President Obama is not a president who just believes in handouts. He believes in helping you get to a place where you're bettering yourself. And that's really all that we ask for. We ask for a chance to get better, a chance to succeed, a chance to achieve our educational dreams and hopes, a chance to earn a living for our families, and just the fairness of government, a government that helps us reach those goals, and that's what we risk to lose. Like, if things change, and if President Obama does not win this election, which it's important to us that he does, but we stand facing a government where, the government stops working for the people, and that's just not an America I want to live in. I want to live in America where we work together as a people and are unified with all the cultures we have across the board, because those cultures are what make this country beautiful. The different mind frames, the different backgrounds, the different histories. That's what built America, and that's what America is founded on. So I want to make sure that we stay that course and continue to move forward.
So you're saying we risk losing the value or the theme of inclusion.
Right, exactly.
Very often through the Democratic National Convention and so forth, we hear President Obama say that this election is an election of choice. Does that theme also resonate in the campaign strategy that you lead? And what is this choice that the president very often refers to?
Well, there are two very different approaches to governance here in this election. And what we speak to is President Obama's choice and President Obama's approach to governance, where it's one where the people are included in the process, where we listen to what's important to the American people, where we're about building the middle class and about really working for and together with the people here in this country. As far as here in Minnesota, what that choice means is, we have communities that really rely on the government, that need, kind of things that aren't just taken for granted, like education, for instance, that need the government to provide their education in a way that's equal for their children, and that really care about their families, and not saying that on the other side we don't have people that care about their families. They do care about their families, but on our side, we care about all families, not just the family that I go home to at night. I care about my friends' families. I care about the families of people I don't know. I want everyone to have a fair chance and a fair shake at equality and of bettering themselves and of entering and staying in that middle class range.
Before we continue with this conversation, I'd just like to turn to our calls.
Yeah.
We'll go ahead and take our first call. Are you there? Hello?
Hello, assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. Thanks for calling Somali Public Radio through KFAI. Can you please begin by telling us what your name is, where you're calling from, and what question or comment would you like relayed?
walaal magacayga waxaa la yidhahdaa ciise. marka hore waan salaamayaa mas-uulka dimuqraadiga ka socda iyo stuudiyahaba. waxaan jeclaan lahaa su-aashayda aniga in la igu tarjumo af ingiriisiga, maadaama aanan af ingiriisiga ku hadlin.
waa lagugu tarjumayaa.
su-aashaan qabaa waxay tahay walaale dadka soomaalida ah inta badankooda waayeelkaba ha u badnaadaan kuma hadlaan luqadda af ingiriiska marka sidee bay rabaan marka xisbigani dimuqraadigu inay dadkaasi ku gaaraan oo runtii baahidoodu hataa ay ka hooseyso dhinaca middle classka ay ka hooseyso oo guryo mataqaanaayo low income iyo subsidies ku nool oo raba inay ogaadaan waxa ay u tari karaan labadan xisbi meesha ku loolamaya.
aad baad u mahadsantahay waana lagu tarjumi doonaa. Our caller that just called asked that the Somali community, a lot of them here in Minnesota, have a level of difficulty with the English language. In terms of the message that your campaign is sending, has anything been sent out to the specific to the Somali community specifically?
As far as translated talking points and things
what
of that
you guys
nature.
are about.
Oh, and what we're about. We're 100%. We've made a vested interest. We've taken a vested interest in the Somali people, and like I say, we've taken a vested interest in all people, but particularly the Somali people as well. The population is very strong here in Minnesota, and every campaign will reach out to the Somali people just from a level of importance of the people here. But our campaign has made many efforts and has succeeded in not just reaching out to get a vote, but in reaching out to include the people in the process. And I personally can speak to that as, some of my best organizing fellows, and those are interns working with me, are Somali. And it's not just about reaching and bringing people from the community, but it's about having those people then turn around and give back. Because if you get out, if you're advancing, if you're making things better for yourself, and you don't turn around and look back at the community you came from and give back, then you're really doing a disservice. So I'm not just going to say that we have a couple Somalis here on staff. We have a good deal of Somalis here on staff. We have a lot of Somalis. We spend time on a weekly basis working the Somali community. We have canvases that we lead from the Minnesota campaign office on University Ave. Every Wednesday from 5:30 to 8, we canvass in the Somali community. Every Sunday from 1 to 5.
Let's continue our conversation. Somali Americans fall under the Muslim American umbrella and generally share the same outlook in terms of politics. Since 9/11, there has been a steady rise in Islamophobia here in this country, which often peaks very much during elections. We have heard many religious right leaders and opportunist politicians stating that Islam is not a religion but a political cult, that Muslims cannot be good Americans, and that mosques are fronts for extremist jihadis. For our audience, can you name specific Obama policies that positively impacted Muslims in terms of religious liberty or Americans as a whole?
Right. Well, one thing we can speak to is, I know, 4 years ago you heard a lot of terms like Islamic fundamentalists and Muslim jihadists and Muslim fundamentalists, and you found Islam and Muslims being linked directly with terrorism. That was something President Obama was not comfortable with, and he didn't stand. If you look at things now and you look at the way the government stands now and you look at the discussions that are ongoing, you don't hear those terms linked. Yes, terrorism still exists in this world, but no longer do you hear and no longer will you hear that kind of talk coming from the government of Islamic fundamentalists, because it's not true. Islam itself is a beautiful religion, and Muslims are beautiful people. The religion isn't indicative of just a few people who have stepped outside to do bad things in the name of that religion. That's not indicative of who and what the religion is. And I think that's one thing that's really important as we have President Obama in office, because we have a president who understands that, most importantly.
Kusoro Somali Public Radio.
Yeah, hello?
Yes, Kusoro Somali Public Radio.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
And I have a question. Hello?
Yes, go ahead with your question.
Oh, yeah, and my question is for the Democrats and for this coming election, and I just wanted to ask, why would the Somalis be electing Democrat again rather than the Republican? Because I myself think that we have more common with the Republicans because we are conservative people as Somalis. And as far as the gay thing goes and abortion thing and all those things, as a Muslim, and I think we shouldn't be supporting abortion and we shouldn't be supporting the marriage amendment. So why should it be Somali person be electing Obama again, since it is against our own religion and against our own belief?
Yeah, and that's actually a really good question. And before I get to that question, what are some of the things that are really important to you and your family? Do you have kids?
Yep.
Okay, how many do you have?
I have 2 kids.
Okay, and what ages are they?
They are like, first one is 3 years, and the one is, right now it's a boy, and he's a newborn.
Oh, yeah. So two real fun ages, and I'm sure you're not getting a lot of sleep these days, but you're definitely blessed in that. And in answering your question, some of the things we need to think about. So, and I know like education is really important. Do you plan on your kids, attending college and attending university?
Yep.
Okay, and I know that's not a cheap proposition. That's a really expensive proposition. Someone who has gone to college and in graduate school myself, I know firsthand. And as you do that, one of the things that you're going to also think about is the tuition rates and the interest rates and all those kind of rates that apply to the college tuition, all those kind of things, and healthcare. And I know you care about your kids, and I know you want the best for them, 100%. And would you rather come out of pocket for health insurance, or would you rather your kids, A, be provided for and make sure that you have a government that cares about their health insurance, but also that those kids are allowed to stay under your own coverage till they're 26th? Because they're only 3 and they're only 2. But one thing you don't really know right now is what the job market and what the world is going to look like when they're 21, 22, 23, 24, and 25. Because right now, thanks to President Obama, kids can stay under their parents' health insurance till they're 26. So if they come out into a world where, where the job market isn't as great as an outlook as it is, as it was a couple years ago and as it is now versus a couple years ago, they don't have to go take any job just to be able to get health insurance. They can have a little bit of choice, and it's just about knowing what matters to your family and to you personally. Because what affects you on a daily life, affects your daily life, what affects you on a daily basis. Like, those are things that people should really be voting on, Like, how does this apply to me today? How does this apply to my family? Is my family provided for? Does my family have access to health care? Do I have access to job training? Do I have a government that cares about me having access to job training, that cares about bringing jobs back to America, and that cares about my kids having access to those jobs? Because one thing President Obama does care about is making sure that not only you, but your 3-year-old and your newborn, when they're adults, they have the chance to win their dream and to access their dream and to be part of the American dream. Because that's why my family came over here, and I'm assuming that's why you're over here right now, is because of what we call the American dream and the beauty of this country that we do call America. And I don't know if that answers your question, but personally, that's the best way I can answer that.
Assalamu alaikum. Kusoo dhow Somali Public Radio. Tulukayfayahay.
Wa alaikum salam. Thank you guys for putting this together. I have a comment and a question.
Okay.
My comment is, we understand that, being involved and voting and telling about the community how to vote and, how to vote for the right person is very important. And we've been doing that for the past, 10 years or so, advocating, trying to educate the community, do awareness on education. But a lot of us in the Somali community feel that the Democrats Party take our votes for granted. So what my question is, what I would like to know is, what would be different that the Democratic Party are planning to do to earn the Somali vote this year?
Yeah. And one thing I would say about your comment is that's been a common thread. That's something that's been felt across, minority communities in general. The African American community, the Somali community, the Nigerian community. That's something that's a feeling that has been building, is that, does my vote matter, and is my vote just being taken for granted? And the way I would say to combat that is kind of the same thing that I did. Instead of kind of sitting at home and watching the process, and I know I'm not saying that you are, because I know that you've been active in the community, and that's what it sounds like. What I say is to encourage more people to be part of the process, because as a member of your community, you're not taking your community for granted. So as you join the process, as you come join the campaigns, you grow within the campaigns, and then you become part of the campaign machinery of the government, of the democratic machinery that then turns around, and you have the will and you have the ability to talk about what matters to your community and to get that voice heard. Do you see what I'm saying with that?
I understand, and I understand that, and I'm not saying, I started with my comment
right.
that, I understand how important it is to vote for the right person.
Right.
With that said, a lot of us are feeling that, even when we think that we're voting for the right person, which our options are, Democrats, you're minority, Democrats is option for you. That's the attitude that has been built up throughout the years. And I'm not saying Democrats are bad, Republicans are bad. I'm not saying anyone is bad. What I would like to know is that, and I'm involved in the process, I'm active in my community and I educate about, how important it is to vote for the person. But
exactly.
I would like to know different strategies that the Democrats are trying to appeal to minorities, that they're not, so then people are not feeling like that because you're a minority, your vote has to be a Democrat, so we don't have to spend so much energy on you. Are you getting what I'm saying?
I get what you're saying, and I can't speak to the party as a whole because I am just here representing the Obama campaign, but I can speak to what we're doing to ensure that people realize it's not just about taking a vote for granted and just about the vote. And one thing we do is we actually take the time to not only listen to people but to record what we're listening to, record what we're hearing, and take that back to headquarters and to Chicago, because it's not if you just listen to somebody, they may feel better about the fact that somebody gave them an open ear, but if you take what they say back and come back with answers and make sure that person knows that their words didn't just end on the day of being said, then that's really how you show someone that you care more about just their vote and you're not taking that vote and that community and that person for granted. We had our Somalis for Obama launch last week, and instead of just setting it up as a time where we want to come and speak to Somali people and just talk about the campaign and that was it, we set it up as a town hall, as a forum, with a microphone there so people could actually talk to representatives, talk to members of the community, voice their concerns and voice their opinions, because ultimately it's important that we all take part. It's important that we all voice those issues and talk about what matters to us, talk about what affects us on a daily basis, because if we don't do that, then no one will listen. But that's how we do things here on the Obama campaign. I don't speak to the whole Democratic apparatus, but as far as our campaign, that's what we're doing to make sure people realize that their communities are not being taken for granted.
Thank you so much for the call. What are some issues that you guys have taken from the Obama campaign here and take it to the headquarters in Chicago, that the issues from the Somali community?
Well, some issues that are really affecting the community here locally is the ability to send money home, whether it's and via money transfer and wire transfer. And, we've realized that, and we've sat down and met with members of communities and found out some of those larger issues, as well as access to education, as well as kind of fairness and the way the Somali Muslim population, especially young Somali men, have been viewed here. And how do we go about changing that? How do we go about working with that? And, one of those issues it just comes down to so those are some of the issues that we've heard and that we've voiced and that we've taken back. One thing is working with Mayor Rybeck as well. One of the issues here, is about having access to an alternative, whether that's summer employment and whether it's access to jobs, because one thing we are as people who are over here as immigrants, as I myself am, is we want to work. We want to better ourselves. We want to build something for the future, and we care about this country. So it's about making sure there are opportunities for summer employment, for kids to have something else to do other than just hanging out, a way to work, a way to build their resumes, a way to work towards their college educations, and a way to kind of help them in the long term. So those are some of the issues that we've taken back that we really care about, and I know the president cares about on the larger scale, but that are local issues that we've been trying to help out and work with as well on a local scale.
As we conclude this program, what message do you have for the Somali people that are listening to this?
One message I would say is continue to have these discussions. So far, one thing I've noticed is, like I said earlier, the Somali community has been very engaged. People are having political discussions all over the place and are very, very active. And it's a beautiful thing to say, because one thing is, like I said, if you don't agree with me, that's fine. Let's sit down and talk about it. If I don't agree with you, that's fine. Let's sit down and talk about it, because by having these conversations and by sitting down, meeting face to face and eye to eye and ear to ear, I'm going to grow from hearing your perspective, just like I hope you grow from hearing my perspective. So just in continuing to do that and continuing to bring your perspectives and your ideas and your thoughts and your community to the campaign is a beautiful thing, because we're here open-armed. We welcome the Somali community and are actively seeking and endeavoring to engage at a greater level and in greater depth with the community. And so keep having these discussions and come out to the campaign office and take part in some activities and just join the process.
Ro, thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks a lot for having me. Appreciate it.